Welcome to Maniac Movies, and I'm continuing Wrong Turn week. So I watched the new Wrong Turn that just came out, the reboot last week, and it's very very good. And that made me want to rewatch all the other movies. And the thing is, the first Wrong Turn movie is a good, solid popcorn horror movie. It's a good, entertaining flick. It's a pretty mixed bag after that, and sometimes you do things that hurt yourself just to see if you can handle it. These are some pretty bad movies. So I'm gonna start with Wrong Turn 2, which is directed by Joe Lynch. And Wrong Turn 2 is a perfectly solid, ultra-violent, low-budget gore movie. And that's how you have to think about Wrong Turn 2. It was it was tailor-made for the magazine Gore Zone. Like I think Joe Lynch even said that at some point. Joe Lynch, who's buddies with Adam Green, who has done some pretty mainstream stuff. He directed Knights of Badassdom with Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones. He directed a movie with Salma Hayek that I think was called Evelyn. I don't remember, but he's done a few major movies, and this was, I think, his first feature. So it's in the mid 2000s, and this was a very common trope in the mid 2000s of building a horror movie around the concept of a reality show gone wrong. And this reality show is hosted by Henry Rollins, lead singer of Black Flag and the Rollins Band. And he's cool. He's playing a retired soldier who has been put in charge of a Survivor knockoff reality show. And they even say that in the movies. One of the characters goes, "Isn't this just a ripoff of Survivor?" But they go out in the woods, and it's a group of contestants who are supposed to be playing this game where they have to get all. It's Survivor. They have to perform little challenges or be eliminated, and they have little cards that make them impervious to elimination. And it's a few familiar faces mixed in here. You have a girl that was, I think, on American Idol at the very beginning. And Patton Oswalt has a voice cameo as her agent while she's arguing with him in the car. But she ain't in the movie real long. She gets cut in half a long way, so out of the flick right away. But then it gets into the main characters. You have Aleska Palladino from Boardwalk Empire in here as the kind of nerdy producer girl who has to be on the show because they don't have a contestant because blonde chick from American Idol never showed up. They don't realize she's dead, but she has to be on the show. And I like Aleska Palladino. I've only seen her in a few things, but she's always fun. And she's doing this for her asshole boyfriend who's walking around in a battle royale T-shirt. So I guess she gets, we're supposed to think of him as like a big, old school horror fan. The notorious Japanese movie about the students having to fight to the death were they on an island? I think they were on an island. They were definitely in the woods with a beat Takeshi Kitano in it. So, yeah, and the other ones, you have Erica Learson. I love Erica Learson. She was in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. She was in Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows. I really like her, and she looks way different. I mean, she's unrecognizable. Normally, she's a very cute, small-framed redhead, but for this movie, she's playing this sort of badass goth girl. So, she's dyed her hair, and she's got her makeup done weird. I think she must have lost some weight for this movie because she looks thinner than she usually does. She's got Texas Battle in there, the big black dude with the obviously made-up name, but fine, whatever. It would be hilarious if his real name was like Rufus Winstrom or something. Texas Battle. Texas Battle is in there as a contestant. He was in Final Destination 3, and so was Crystal Lowe, who was in this movie. And Crystal Lowe, if you watched enough horror movies in the 2000s, you saw her breast at least once, because that was kind of what she was hired for. She would be in the movie for 2 or 3 scenes, like in Final Destination 3, like in the Black Christmas remake, like in this, and she would take off her clothes. But she's the kind of slutty girl. Um, Other contestants. Oh yeah, and then there's the really obnoxious guy and the lesbian former soldier, and a few assorted crew members that are working on the show, and they're basically just going out there to do this dumbass under budget reality show, and they're getting wasted because they apparently did not scout this area at all, because they didn't notice that it is just crawling with this family of deformed. And this movie retcons that they're not, although they are incestuous because we see the brother and sister banging. It's a dad played by King Kurzinger, who played Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. So it's a dad, a mom, and a brother and sister, and then Three Fingers still running around because at the end of Wrong Turn 1, we saw that Three Finger had survived at least. So, they didn't notice that these people were out there while they were doing this. So yeah, really amateur hour. But basically, what is happening is you're watching these contestants get off one by one, and generally the acting is good enough that I like these characters, particularly Erica Learson. I'm a big fan of hers, but aside from the obnoxious guy, and that guy is so irritating and so over the top, it's like anybody would have cracked this motherfucker in the jaw after about 10 minutes with him. But aside from him, the acting's pretty solid. Henry Rollins is good in it. It's always fun watching him show up and stuff. Like Heat, he popped up in that small part in Heat. His best role was definitely in that Charlie Sheen movie, The Chase, as the asshole cop. But he's good in it. And the funny thing is that the cannibals are picking off the contestants like it's nothing because they can't defend themselves. There's a bunch of idiots who were dropped off in the woods. They don't know what the hell's going on. But Mr. Former military badass Henry Rollins is like goes into full on Rambo mode. He's like war paint, like Schwarzenegger at the end of Predator. He's making little weapons and traps, and he's like, "Oh hell no, you ain't killing me, motherfuckers." So Henry Rollins is fun in this movie, and it's fun watching him do this. And it's also they actually give Erica Learson a good arc in this movie. So overall, Wrong Turn 2, you have a lot of over the top gore, a lot of sick joke type stuff. Like I said, the sex scene between the brother and sister is fun. It's fun. It's funny that when Crystal Lowe is getting chased by the cannibals, she stops to try and get dressed as she's running, and I don't think that would be your priority. I think you're just gonna haul ass, not care that anyone can see you in your little thong. Um, but yeah, it's not predictable in the order that characters get killed, which I liked. It sets up all the characters, with the exception of Henry Rollins at least, kind of on an even keel. Like you can't just say, okay, those characters are pointless. They're definitely gonna die real early. That character is going to make it to the end because they're likable and no one else. Like, it is honestly a little unpredictable how and in what order characters will die. This is an absurdly gory movie. Three Fingers not in it very much, which is good because his makeup isn't nearly as good as it was in the first movie, so I don't miss him, and the actor is not nearly as good either. So yeah, you get some good over the top gore. You can get a nice little axe to the head. You get a human meat grinder, which is just gnarly. Person choked with barbed wire because we got to work barbed wire in there. A couple people just flat out explode. The old dude who runs the gas station in the first movie is the only actor, not the only character, but the only actor to return from the first movie because Three Finger does return. It's just played by a different actor. And I don't know why the hell that was. They couldn't get that guy back. Like, really? He's out of your price range? Sure. Strong Turn 2 is overall a pretty solid little gore movie. It's not great, but for a straight to DVD sequel, it's about as good as you can hope for. Wrong Turn 3 sucks. Wrong Turn 3 is the reason I dropped off on this franchise. I actually, when I remember watching this with my brother and I. Yeah, like we were really, we loved the first movie. The second movie was okay. And when we watched this third movie, we were just like ripping it apart. Like, this movie is trash. This is shit. That didn't make sense. That was stupid. Wrong Turn 3, the sad thing is it stars Janet Montgomery. So Janet Montgomery is the actress that starred on the TV show Salem. And she was also in the movie The Hills Run Red. And after part two, the Wrong Turn franchise started filming in Eastern Europe because at the time in the 2000s it was very, very cheap to film in Eastern Europe, and a lot of straight to DVD horror was shot in Eastern Europe. And she was just finishing up The Hills Run Red, which was shot in Eastern Europe, and apparently because she was already there and they were looking for anyone who could do an American accent, she was just pretty much immediately cast in the lead in this. So the clever thing about Wrong Turn 3 is that it sets us up to think we're going to watch something very similar to the first movie. Group of kids kayaking. They were kayaking, right? I think they were kayaking. Going down the river on things. I think they were kayaks. And they stop, and you figure, okay, so I know this formula. We're gonna be with these kids, and they're gonna get killed one by one. And Janet Montgomery, who is the girl who doesn't take off her clothes immediately, is probably gonna be our lead. But no, basically all these kids are annihilated right away. Like, and I will say that the arrow through the hand, through the titty, was a pretty good kill. But, and, the kills in part 3 are generally okay. It's just the characters, man. Because aside from Janet Montgomery, I really like her. I liked her in basically everything I've seen her in. These characters are just alternately boring or unbearable, especially this one guy. Because what the movie is actually about is there's this prison bus that crashes in this little corner of hell where these cannibals live. Only it's really just Three Finger at this point. So the prison bus crashes, and they immediately find this big cache of money hidden out there. And there's this one prisoner, he's Latin, I didn't pick up on any names. This guy is one of the most annoying main characters in horror history. He's down there with that fat kid from Sleepaway Camp 4, the one that ran around like, your ass stinks. He's one of those characters who never found a line he couldn't shout at full volume. It's like, fuck you, we are doing what I say. I will kill you if you disagree with me. You shut your mouth. I'm in charge now. Shut up, cop. You're lucky we didn't. Just the whole movie, he's just at a 10, and he's an annoying, unlikable, pain in the ass character. So, but I mean, no one in this movie is likable. It's just Wrong Turn 3 is one to skip. Even if you're a fan of Janet Montgomery, just watch The Hills Run Red twice in a row. Like this movie is just bad. It's bad. It's annoying bad. It's free on YouTube. At least right now, it's free on YouTube. Someone might find it and pull it for a copyright claim. But yeah, Wrong Turn 3 sucked. Oh, and best bad movie moment of Wrong Turn 3 is when they're driving at full speed and Three Finger hooks onto the side of the truck with his little hook and just climbs up on top of the hook as opposed to, it ripping his arm off because they were driving at like 45 miles per hour, but that's how that works. Wrong Turn 3 is terrible. Wrong Turn 4 is better than Wrong Turn 3. That's not saying much. So Wrong Turn 4, because Wrong Turn 3 basically, like, you kind of cut the bloodline of that. There's not really any more cannibals. I mean, so in Wrong Turn 4, they had to introduce whole new thing, and they went with a prequel. So Wrong Turn 4, 5, and 6, I think, are all supposed to be prequels. There's a video up on YouTube where it explains the timeline of the Wrong Turn franchise, according to one fan anyway, but really, basically, they just reset the clock so they could have Three Finger, Sawtooth, and One Eye back. So we get their backstory that they were raised in this clinic and they busted out and killed everybody and released the prisoners, the inmates. Then we jump into what becomes typical for this franchise, starting with part 3, is that you open with a sex scene in the first 10 minutes. And part 4 opens with 2 sex scenes happening at the same time. One between a man and a woman, one between 2 girls. Then they go on a snowmobile trip, and one guy gets injured, and they have to take refuge in the closed-down hotel, and much hilarity ensues. This movie's pretty forgettable. The one part where the guy's girlfriend gets hung by barbed wire, and he's pulling on her feet, like trying to pull her back down, like, dude, that's not gonna work. And he actually rips her head off. That was sort of funny. But aside from that, it's a step. Yeah, it's barely a step up from part 3 just because it's not as annoying or boring as part 3, but it's still not good by any stretch of the imagination. You get a few decent over-the-top kills, but I just described the best kill of the whole movie to you. Wrong Turn 4 would be, I guess you'd say, a for completist only type thing, but really it's just blah. Wrong Turn 5 I kind of liked. Wrong Turn 5 is better by a lot than parts 3, 4, or 6. And I think part of the reason is because it's so remarkably mean-spirited in its kills. And part of the reason is because Pinhead, the man himself, I am pain. Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks? Angel to some, demon to others. Doug Bradley he stars in this, and it's cool. He apparently is something of a ringleader to Three Finger, Sawtooth, and One Eye. He's wanted for murder, and he's been hiding out in the hills, and it's kind of implied that maybe he's related to them, but then again, he might have just been lying to them, and I tend to think that he was just lying to them. Because he's not deformed, and he doesn't know any of the history of them. He just calls them my boys. And it's cool seeing Doug Bradley in such a meaty role. He doesn't act much, honestly, outside of the original 8 Hellraiser movies. So Doug Bradley is in it, and he's kind of trying to coordinate them. He's trying to teach them to kill in a fashion that won't get them immediately caught, which I guess you could, if you wanted to connect the timeline, say that that's why by part 1 they sort of know, get the car off the road, drag away the dead bodies, that kind of thing. Don't let anyone escape. Like, he has this big thing towards the beginning where he's like, you know why I haven't been caught? Because I don't leave shit behind. Because I think they left a hand behind. Then they just, like I said, this movie is pure bad taste, and that's fun to me. I like how mean-spirited and nasty this movie is. Like, while he's yelling at the 3 cannibals, and he's not deformed at all, he's just Doug Bradley. But he's just got a naked corpse of a woman in a black thong just hung up behind him with a slice on her stomach, right? I think it was her stomach. Cut her throat or her stomach. God, I saw so many people die in these movies in this last week. They're starting to blur together a bit. But yeah, he had this mean-ass reporter, because the whole premise of part 5 is that they're having this big mountain man party. Because apparently this movie, again, is sort of building on the mythology that there was this big fight amongst the clans. They kind of had this uprising. There was this overnight slaughter. Had something to do with a company coming in and screwing them over. I don't know. Again, these are all starting to blur together pretty bad for me at this point. But, yeah, so there's this Mountain Man Fest, and it's kind of commemorating the massacre. And one girl even points out, this is in bad taste. Man, shut up. We're here to have fun. And they keep saying, it's like Coachella, it's like Burning Man. But we never get to see the party because that would cost money. So we actually see these group of kids who were going to go to the Mountain Man Fest, but they get waylaid because they get jumped by Doug Bradley and his crew. But even though they're the victims, in the process, the cops find a ton of drugs hidden in their car. And ultimately, the one rich kid kind of, he steps up and he's a man about it. He says, "I bought it all. It's on me. They didn't even know it was in the car. I'm the only one who should be getting charged here." So he's stuck in jail, and the other ones decide, I don't feel like going to party. Our buddy's going to jail, and they're trying to get like his defense set up. They're calling his dad and all, and the streets at this point are completely cleared out. But Doug Bradley also gets arrested in the process because they were beating the shit out of him. But he comes at him with a knife, which was kind of ridiculous to me. But mm, like I don't really know why they would have arrested him. Anyway, so they arrest Doug Bradley, and the whole movie is him kind of Hannibal Lectering in a cell, like, you can't keep me. I'm gonna fucking like he's just like rude. He's like, I'm gonna fuck you, then kill you, or maybe I'm gonna kill you, then fuck you. Like he's just like the drunk who's in the cell with him is like, can I please be put in a different cell? This guy's creeping me out. So, except this movie has a better pace. It's faster and it's not as annoying. And none of the characters are especially unlikable, which is nice. None of them are especially. Oh, actually, the female sheriff I did like. She was good in it. I should have looked up her IMDb to see if she was in anything else. She was actually legit a solid female lead for this movie. So the kids are kind of going around, and she runs background on Doug Bradley, runs his prints, and finds out he's got murder warrants. So he ain't going anywhere. But he keeps saying, "My boys are gonna get me out. The only chance you have is to let me go right now." But Sawtooth, Three Fingered One Eye, they go take out the power grid for the town, which I guess the party is on a different grid because it doesn't seem to affect the party at all, which again we barely even see a hint of. We see kind of like one cop working security for it, and then he leaves his post to go bang a groupie. Which I swear that scene didn't go anywhere. It was only there to show, I guess, that the cop wasn't on duty because the whole thing is the sheriff can't get any. She can't call in reinforcements. It kind of turns into assault in precinct 13. The sheriff can't get anyone to come help her. The one guy she gets on the horn doesn't believe her and thinks it's a prank phone call. Like cell phone, the cell phone tower's screwed up. The power's out. They're on emergency generator power. But yeah, this just has some mean, gnarly kills in it. It's honestly as goofy and over the top as it is. It's also pretty dark. Like the one girl, the blonde girl, the one that was like, "This is inappropriate. I don't want to go to a party commemorating a murder." They straight up they gut her, then try to feed her her own intestines. Like that is the level that this movie goes to, and it's a dark. I actually recommend Part Five. I do. If you can find it relatively cheap, it's worth a watch just for how gnarly it is. If you like the first one, if you like the first two, because I actually do like both the first two, Part Five is honestly worth watching. I like Part Five. And yeah, it ends on a very dark note too. God, I don't know. Okay, okay, I'm gonna spoil it, so just skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this. But it ends with the sheriff being strung up in a trap like in the Saw movies, where she's like tied up to a shotgun, and if she stands on her toes, she'll live. But if she lets herself fall, it's gonna pull the trigger because the way they've rigged the string from her hands to the trigger on the shotgun. And she's told, well, you're either going to burn alive, or you can just go ahead and let go and shoot yourself. And I mean, that's a hard choice to make right there. After she's accidentally killed her husband because they rigged up a trap where if she opened the door, it was going to gut him. Then the one girl that got blinded already by Doug Bradley, gouge out both her eyes. She goes for help, and Doug Bradley escapes and catches her and is like, "Oh, we are gonna rape you so hard." It's like, and that's the end of the movie. It's like, damn. Yeah, I recommend Part Five honestly. Then you get into Part Six, and it's more crap. What kills Part Six honestly is that the lead actor sucks, and I don't really understand how this one fits into the franchise. There's this whole thing where they say there's three different clans living up in the mountains, and this guy who apparently was working on Wall Street at 24, he and had some sort of meltdown. He gets told, "Oh well, your family, you actually are part owner of this resort out in the woods in West Virginia." And he goes out there, and this one also, the actors are stumbling so hard over their American accents. Everyone's like, "I'm in the like, yeah, you guys are Eastern European. You are not American actors." There are a couple Americans in here, but Sadie Katz is in this movie. I actually like her. She's been in a lot of low budget horror stuff. She was in Hanukkah, which I think was the second to last movie Sid Haig made before his death, and she was a main character in that. Also, a movie called Clown Fear. But the when he gets to the end, it's run by a creepy a pair of people that are somehow related, and there's this running joke throughout the movie. Are they cousins, brother and sister, husband and wife, or all three? But and there's this whole thing where they look normal, but of course, Sawtooth, Three Finger, and One Eye are running around the woods killing people, and they're kind of trying to indoctrinate this guy into being like them. And it turns out they want to do it because they want him to breed with Sadie cats because their bloodline has gotten so poisoned and corrupted that babies are rarely even surviving. If they do, they're so badly disfigured it's not any kind of life. They have this one little girl who's like apparently born with one leg and her head is all disfigured and she can barely even lift it up. And I actually saw a little girl in the neighborhood where I worked that was like that. She was so disfigured she couldn't even sit up, and it was sad. Like that's a hard thing to see, especially in a child. But in this movie, you get some gnarly kills, but even the kills are sort of stupid. I got some laughs out of this movie. There's one sequence where a guy sees a mountain man eating a deer raw, and I like to think of this character as, no, I don't run like a girl, because when he sees it, he just he's like flailing his arms and screaming. It's funny as hell. Then he crashes into the main character, and they get caught in barbed wire because barbed wire is wrong turn. The fat guy's this movie's kills are over the top and stupid, but they're sort of funny. A girl gets her leg just broken and then torn off. One guy gets smothered to death by Sadie Katz. She puts a pillow over his head, then sits on it and like fucks the pillow while he's suffocating. That was sort of funny. I like Sadie Katz, so that was kind of the one saving grace this movie really had for me is that I enjoyed her in it. But aside from that, just the lead guy, he's so bad. He has no charisma. He's annoying. He's an unlikable character. There's this whole thing where he was on Wall Street with his friend's money, and he had this breakdown and was irresponsible with everyone's money and lost it all. And then when he inherits this hotel, a couple of them are like, so this is worth a lot of money. You lost us a lot of money. Is there maybe something you want to say? Like maybe you'll pay us back? And he's acting like they're being the greedy assholes. It's like, dude, you owe them. You fucked up. Own it. Yeah, all right. I'm going to sell some of this shit and I'll pay you back the money I lost. Because it's not like they made bad investments and they lost it. They gave their money to him. He had a nervous breakdown and lost their money. And just the way the actor plays it, he's very. He's always mugging for the camera. He sucks. I hated him. And he killed whatever little bit of enjoyment I could have gotten out of this movie. The girl playing his girlfriend is actually really good in it, though, which is sort of sad. It's always sad to see that, where you have like her and Sadie Katz. They're both good in this movie, where you have people that are doing a good job in a shit film. The gore effects are okay, but again, the kills in this one are pretty stupid. The dumbest kill in the entire franchise in this movie where Three Finger jams a water hose, like one of those old fire hoses they have in hotels, up a guy's ass, and it turns the water on full blast, which I know will kill you. Like, you can't be killed by doing that. I remember a news story about that, about a kid who did that one time. I don't know why he was sticking a water hose up his ass, but fine. Different strokes for different folks, but it did cause internal damages and killed him, but what it didn't do was make his stomach explode like he was in goddamn Alien 3. So, yeah, the kills in this are stupid. Yeah, so Wrong Turn 6 sucked. This franchise is pretty bad. The first one's good. The second one's pretty decent. 5 I kind of like. 3, 4, and 6 are trash. But honestly, none of them are really objectively good except for the first one. Even 2 is pretty dumb. It's just kind of fun dumb. And then of course the reboot, which is a legit good movie as well. So I took the hit. I forced my way through all of these movies, and I'm gonna go get some brain bleach and watch something that doesn't suck.